Hey guys, so first of all, I want to say congratulations to Andy Worski for being like the number one trending live show yesterday. He had more than like 13,000 viewers at one point, which is pretty amazing, right? He's definitely taken his channel in the right direction. He also probably made tons of fucking money, and I know a lot of people do not like that fact, but he did. And I just hope he keeps doing what he's doing, because anybody who thinks hosting live discussions, etc., is a stupid idea is dumb to begin with. And I also think the discussion was decently moderated. Obviously, everything can always be better, but I thought JF did a good job at summarizing Spencer's points and to make it more digestible for Sargon to understand. There was a few instances of this within the debate where he had to clarify it so Sargon could, respond, right? Then again, and also, there was a few times where Andy spoke up and stopped the dogpiling that was kind of going on towards Sargon, so that was also good. Like I did notice that JF was obviously defending Richard Spencer more often, and he did sometimes pose some questions that were not necessarily necessary and stuff, and he didn't really need to interact that much, but on average I think he did a decent job. And also I think Andy did a decent job at like making sure nobody talked over Sargon. You can tell Andy, had a little bit more of a bias to Sargon because he only spoke up sometimes when he was being talked over, but that's not really a problem, like I said, because JF was more or less defending Spencer, so it was more or less even in that circumstance. And I also think the mix of people they had on was pretty good, right? I honestly believe a better discussion may have been Styx and JF, or maybe even Styx and Richard Spencer. I realize a lot of people think Styx has too much in common with Spencer, but in my opinion, he made the best points during the discussion, and he didn't have beef with Sargon, or I mean with Spencer previously, so you could tell like there was clearly bad blood between Spencer and Sargon, and without that, the discussion could have been handled a lot better, I think. But ultimately, Andy did a good job at allowing Richard Spencer to talk and let him expose himself to some of the more impractical ideas, like which is a good thing, because filibustering people just helps solidify that person's beliefs, because you're not letting them speak. You're not going to change their mind if you don't let them speak, which I know a lot of leftists essentially wanted the debate to go like this because this is how they want the interactions to go with white supremacists or white identitarians, right? They want them to just kind of talk over them and shame them the entire time. But that's not constructive. It's not going to get you anywhere. But one of the examples of Richard Spencer's kind of dumb ideas was the fact that he thinks like having like a ruler state is a good idea, and he wants a class above everybody else, kind of making the decisions, and he's also for like statism. He thinks statism will work better in an ethno-state, right? For some reason, he fails to realize that statism and this ruler class that he wants so much is one of the reasons we have so many issues in societies today. It's he has like a naive way of looking at other white people. Just because someone is white doesn't mean they're not going to royally fuck you and take advantage of you if given the chance, right? And he also admitted there could be potential for a purity spiral, a point that Styx brought up. This also falls in line with like the statism problem, right? Because he himself could want to do things peacefully, like he was saying. He doesn't want to use violence and force. But you're banking on the fact the people who get elected won't abuse the power that you have entrusted in them. Like we already know from history, it's only a matter of time before a king or a queen or somebody who has a lot of authority within governments, etc., are going to abuse that power. Hoping to get a philosopher king to rule you is very unlikely, right? those don't come around very often, and they die after a couple decades, right? So they're not gonna, once they die, they're gonna get replaced with somebody who's not good. And Sticks is right by saying that the Marxists will infiltrate that society too. Take a look at what happened in the Soviet Union, right? And all those people died and shit. Like, the issue then wasn't the lack of an ethno-state. It was the control the Soviet Union had over the economy and the people and over all their rights. Like, having total fucking control. So having white rulers won't help us. The same will always happen. Whenever you have a massive states, bad people are always going to be attracted to that. It's like shit. It's like flies on shit. If you have these things available, they're going to want to come to it. Like, even like the military, you have people go to war voluntarily, right? Well, half of those people are going because they just want to kill somebody. I'm not saying that's all the people who are going. Some of them do want to protect you, but you're gonna get those types of people there in the military because that's what the job prescribes. So to think that your white leaders aren't going to take advantage of you like they did clearly in Russia seems a little bit naive, right, to me. And like I said before, there's the potential for a purity spiral. There are some people, if they do get into power and they are the people who want it to be ethnically pure, that's when you're going to get them trying to like kill off a lot of people. Like, example of this is like essentially Germany in World War II, like under Hitler. But this is essentially what's going to happen. And I do think Sargon didn't really help made Spencer look a little bit better during the debate. He did interrupt him quite a few times, and he was trying to catch him in like a logical trap concerning the question of like, who is white, right? I think that question does reveal the impracticality of enforcing a purely white ethno-state, but I don't believe people are necessarily too concerned about that issue at the moment, and it seems more secondary, right? I haven't seen too many people argue for a pure ethno-state, and humans are fairly good at distinguishing origins based on looks. I think they want to take a place where people, I think they want a place where people are mostly at least visibly white to begin with. So yes, that means Jews could get in there and infiltrate it, but all you have to do is what Andy Worski says, like throw a nickel and you see if they chase it. Then I'm kidding. Don't. That's a joke, obviously. But this things that Sticks was bringing up about the practicality of enforcing these things are good points. About the feasibility of an ethno-state made the most sense. In the comment, the only potential way it could be achieved to some degree is through a libertarian society, right? Like, he was saying that if you're going to do it, it's going to have to be through more of a libertarian fashion, right? Which I completely agree with. Sticks also understands that, like, you'll never get the majority support to implement any type of ethno-state to begin with. People are too intermingled these days. We have mixed families. You have a girlfriend, etc., that's black or whatever. You got friends and family that you're really good friends with that are not white, so all those people are going to defend those people. So you're not going to get majority support to enact the ethno-state, even if you want to do it peacefully, right? So it's just not very practical, and even Spencer pretty much admits at one point that it's just an ideal. It's not practical, especially not now, and I don't think it will ever be practical either. He thinks someday it might be, but I'm not so sure, right? So in the end, I think the best thing for identitarians can hope for, in my opinion, is trying to live in a more libertarian society, right? That is the only way, and then making immigration, it'd be easier to convince people to have merit-based immigration than it would be on race and shit like that, right? You just say, you have to make this amount of money, etc., to be allowed in the country. And at that point, if you do that, the majority of people that are going to be entering your country are going to be either white or like Asian or something like that, or some rich Saudi Arabians, or So by just doing that, you're going to have mostly white people immigrating to your country anyways, and you don't even have to make a specific law, right? And then if you move away from socialism, right, not move towards socialism once you get an ethno-state, you move away from it, it's the redistribution of wealth. Right now, if we stop that, then white families who do pay the majority of the taxes right now in America and in Canada, if they can have more of their money, they can keep most of it. That means they will reinvest it in having more kids, right? So it's not rocket science. They're going to have more kids, and then the birth rates will eventually, fix themselves, right? If you just allow more people to keep more of their money. This is why you got to move towards more freedom and shit. It's much easier to sell people on less government and more freedom than it would be on selling them on ethno-state with only white people. Like, that's just not going to work in our day and age. And a lot of the racism caused, I believe nowadays, is caused by the governments and by the state taking money and redistributing it. Because what happens is, there's like a white majority country, or it doesn't really matter what race, and then you have a minority come in. And then maybe or maybe not, that minority may use more or less resources. So what does this essentially do? It gets people to be mad at the other group instead of the government that is supplying these resources and creating incentives for people to use it, right? So this makes us hate each other instead of hating the government, the people who set up these things, right? Like, it's like in Canada, Aboriginals, they take a lot more welfare and all this shit. And then a lot of people are mad at natives because they're like, oh, you're lazy, you're bums, you're this, you're that. But really, they should be mad at the government, right? These are the people who are setting up the incentives that people are then taking advantage of. And they have all their own reasons because, there is historical reasons why people do feel disgruntled more towards another group. Like in America with slavery and stuff, there is still that where black people or whatever could still feel, like they did get screwed over for many, many years, right? And same with Aboriginals and stuff in Canada. So some of those people may feel more inclined to use the system more and to abuse it more because of the things that we did in the past. So the best thing to do is just stop a lot of this socialism bullshit and just move towards a more libertarian society, and it'll be better for everybody. White, black, Asian, native, it doesn't matter. We'll all be better off. So, I'm glad he had this debate, and I hope he keeps having more. They're really interesting, and I hope him all the well with his channel. But if you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.